Hey everyone, I just wrapped up my first archery hunts of the season here for whitetails. I live in Minnesota, but I hunt the Dakotas that opened up a little earlier. And I wanted to put together a video here specific to hunting mornings during the early season. The video that I opened up here with was from a morning hunt this past Sunday, where a buck slipped in to a bed that I was set up over that I had found 2 years ago while scouting. And he came in to that bed and bedded down at about little after 8 o'clock, so almost 2 hours after daylight. He proceeded to stay bedded there for almost 2 hours before he got back up again, and then just naturally browsed his way off and went and bedded in another location somewhere out of sight. So if you listen to, if you listen to a lot of whitetail media, you're going to hear almost undoubtedly that most people will tell you that you should not hunt mornings during the early season, with the idea there being deer. A lot of this is buck related because that's what you hear about in the whitetail world a lot, is trying to get big bucks. And the idea being that they're coming back to bed before daylight, they're going to beat you back to bed, and before you can get in there and get set up, and you're just going to do more harm than good because you're going to bump them out. And I think, to an extent, there is definitely there's some truth to that. Obviously, hunting in the early season during the mornings is more difficult than hunting during the rut in the mornings. I mean, those are fantastic time periods. But that was also hard for me because when I'm going on these out-of-state trips where I'm literally spending 2-3 days hunting a lot of times, it's hard for me to sit out a morning sometimes. And so years ago, I decided to basically ignore that advice and try to figure out ways where I could hunt mornings strategically throughout the early season, all the way through that. This notion that you shouldn't hunt mornings, I think, runs into, late mid-October, before that pre-rut period kicks in and stuff. So I wanted to spend more time hunting, and I didn't want to get to the end of a season and feel like I'd wasted opportunities to hunt. Now, obviously, you can do things other than being in a tree on mornings during the early season. If you feel like you're better served to be out scouting at that first light period, maybe sitting back and glassing, by all means do that. But I'm just telling you, you can put yourself in position to shoot deer, including bucks, during the mornings in the early season. And the two things that I think are key to doing that, at least giving yourself a chance, are finding security areas where deer, these bedding areas, where do deer want to bed? Finding those security areas that offer browsing opportunities for them. That is what gets them on their feet and moving, is the desire to feed. They're doing this, they're bedding down 2-3 hours, and then they're getting up, and then they're browsing, and they're moving, might be 40-50 yards, something like that. They're doing this continuously throughout the day as long as they have good browsing opportunity there. And that's what's going to draw in a lot of deer, is not just the security cover, but is there feeding opportunity right there where they feel comfortable being on their feet in daylight. And number two, to give yourself a chance to hunt it effectively, is having great access. That may mean coming in up a creek that has like banks on the side that are gonna offer you to get in there to walk in undetected. That can be tough because there could be deadfall and things like that, but you get what I mean there, where there's some sort of feature in the topography that's gonna allow you to get in clean. What I use a ton is river access, water access, using a kayak to get in. That's exactly what I did on this hunt on Sunday where that buck slipped in. Is I kayaked in, I put the kayak on shore, and I had to go like 15 feet off the bank once I climbed up the bank to get into the tree. And I was 20 yards from that bed I found. So it's those two things. Where do deer feel comfortable being on their feet in daylight? And where are they going to have, and do they have browse opportunity, natural vegetation where they can get up and move around. This area here has ragweed and it has nettles, and I've seen them browsing on leaves of both. And it's interesting because it's also security cover for them, because it's giant ragweed and it's really high. The deer I watched come through this past week, and a doe and 2 fawns, it was at neck level to the doe, and the fawns were kind of moving through, kind of hidden in the cover, but they were nibbling the whole way. They're biting off the leaves on the ragweed and just feeding casually, and going through the process of moving. So this isn't just about shooting a huge buck. This can be about, if you want to shoot a doe, early season can be a great time to do that. So I just wanted to touch on it too, because I had another example from this past week. A buddy of mine who was out getting ready for the South Dakota opener. He had been watching two huge bucks together in an area leading up to the season. And it was not in your typical like tree cover areas. It was in a cattail slough. Cattails surrounded by beans, surrounded by an adjacent cornfield. So he was able to sit back and watch them a lot. And the morning of opening day in South Dakota, he got up at 5 and he went out and he positioned himself before light and was waiting for that first light to come. And he watched an hour after daylight, one of those two huge bucks feeding in the beans in broad daylight before slipping back to bed. And I just note that to say that, these deer don't have an alarm clock or something like that. Yes, a lot of them may slip back to bed before daylight and everything, but some don't. You may have an opportunity, at a buck that just holds on a little bit longer. That's all you need, is a buck that's going to hold on, or a deer that's going to hold on a little bit longer out feeding and then slip back to bed. And if they feel secure, from the path they have to take to from that food source into the bedding, all the better. You're going to run the chance that they're going to feel more comfortable waiting longer and coming back to bed later. So I just note all this to say that, if you want to hunt mornings during the early season all the way through what would be considered the October lull, there are opportunities to do it. Last year, October 15th, a buck that was every bit as big as the buck I ended up shooting on November 19th last year in Minnesota came through at 10:30 in the morning on October 15th. Because of all those ingredients I mentioned, I had great security cover, I had browse opportunity on the edge of that security cover, and I had great access into the tree. The only reason I didn't shoot him was because he hugged so tight to that security cover. I thought I was on as close. I didn't think he could get downwind of me, and I was wrong about that. He really knifed through some thick cover to stay downwind of me. But 10:30 in the morning, he was on his feet, moving along, browsing, checking things out along that transition. So I just note all that to say that if you want to hunt mornings, do it. You just may have to think about it really strategically. Find ways to, find areas that have great access, and two, like that, trust your scouting. This buck that came in on me on Sunday morning, it was so cool because he bedded right directly in that bed that I found 2 years ago, and it was just your classic buck bed that's set up to be good year after year. It had a deadfall over the top of it. It was in a little low ground area that was just real nice and shaded. So it set up really well for early season bedding because I got down in there when I found it and it was just really cool. You could feel the temperature difference from 15 yards away to being down in this bed. I mean, it just was a perfect area. And I just thought to myself, we're so close to the riverbank here. There's got to be a tree I can get into and see if I could catch one slipping back to bed sometime. And it worked out. I didn't end up, I chose not to shoot that deer. And who knows, I may, at some point, this season, I don't think I'll regret it, but I'm the type that never wants my season to be over. But I think even though I didn't, decide to shoot that deer, I think it's still a testament to how this can work. So yeah, get out there, enjoy the season however you want to enjoy the season. If you want to hunt mornings, hunt mornings. If you want to hunt 85 degrees and south winds with 30 mile an hour, blowing at 30 miles an hour, you can do that too. I shot a buck on opening day in 2020 on an evening sit with those exact conditions, and those are conditions too where you may hear a lot that they're not worth hunting in those conditions. High winds, high heat, things like that. Hunt your hunt and know that if you can put yourself in a position where deer like spending their time during daylight and feel comfortable spending their time during daylight and being on their feet, you are going to give yourself a chance to shoot deer regardless of what time of the year it is. So here are the videos, take a look at them. We'll end with them and stuff, but yeah, enjoy the season. Good luck to everybody out there this year.
There's a guy.